So it tells me. Right. Good morning. So we're doing something a little bit differently today. I thought I'd drop in and do an actual masterclass in and around how to effectively sell in 2025. So we've got things all pretty organized. So we've got you guys here on TikTok. You guys here are going to be on Instagram. And then we've got YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We're setting all this up because over the space of the coming weeks, we're having a big transformation around what we're doing, how we're doing it, where we're doing it, and everything else in between. So the reason we're doing these ones as we are now in this setup is ready for the next setup we're going to do. And that means we're going to be able to have the ability to start doing more live trainings, more live coaching, where you guys can literally drop in and actually get live coaching, get training without even needing to enroll in the first program. And the reason behind that is because I want you guys to get some results, whether that's breaking our beliefs, whether that's improving our skill set, whether that's boosting our habits, whatever that might actually be that's holding you back at the moment. We want to make sure. So whether you guys are on TikTok, whether you're here on Instagram, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you are all very welcome. Now, excuse me. If you have any questions, hang around, pop them in the chat. We're not going to be doing any sales pitch on this for any of our programs, but if anyone wants to know more, you can just go to becomeyourpotential.info, and there's a free training on there that you can basically find out more. So what's the plan for today? The big plan that we've got here is I want to be able to help people that are typically selling over the phone, face-to-face or on Zoom to get more results, to get to that next stage, to get rid of the pain points and the problems that we're facing and actually level up. Not necessarily just work harder, because let's be completely frank, working harder isn't what we all want to do. We actually want to be able to go off and just be more effective in what we're actually doing. And that's the plan. So whether you're here with us on Insta, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you're all welcome. Okay. So frame for the day. Probably be going for about 40 minutes to an hour. And over this time, I'm going to talk a little bit more about 3 primary areas. Where we are right now, what we're doing, and how we're going to fix it. And that's going to be based around our mindset, our skill set, and our habits, and giving you actionable and practical solutions to the problems you are likely facing. So if you're selling on phone, if you're selling on Zoom, if you're selling face-to-face, all of these areas are going to really help. If you're just doing appointment setting, if you're just closing, if you're just doing new business, if you're doing redealing on clients, there's going to be parts of what we cover in this process that are all going to help you go from where you are now to that next level. So who is it suitable for? Well, if you're someone that wants to get to the next level, it's a really good starting point. Who isn't it for? If you're someone out there now that just sits there and has the skeptical mindset about doing new things, and this isn't to say that you can only listen to me. It's not about that at all. It's actually, for the vast majority of us, we need to be at the stage that we're being practical and actionable in the things we're actually doing. We're actually being we're consciously trying to get to that next stage. So maybe you're trying to improve your conversions. You're trying to get a better mindset. You know, maybe, but actually you're not doing things in the way that you could be doing to the standard that you're doing them. And that's what I really want to break down. So I've created about a 9-page thing that we're going to go through to help you guys. So wherever you are in your process at the moment, hopefully you'll find this a bit of benefit. And if you decide you want to know a little bit more, you can just drop me a DM or just go to becomeyourpotential.info. And on there, you can literally watch a free 36-minute training, an overview on what we actually do. All right. Okay. So I'm going to talk about some of my clients, and we're going to talk about some of my own personal things that we've had to overcome and fix and solve, so that you can go out potentially and not have to have those same problems in what you're doing. And these will be accurate whether you're in sales or whether, for example, you're a business owner who is actively selling in your business, like a founder-led sales type thing. Okay. Now, the big problem that the vast majority of us have in and around what we're actively doing is, I always thought, and I'll give you from my example, I always thought that the way I was doing it was the best possible way physically possible to do it. And I was in for a bit of a shock. And this is one of the lessons that I actually had before in my own career in sales. I had to actually have quite a big realization that although I thought I was doing things in the best way for my clients, it took me ages to work this out. But I was actually doing it in a way that I felt the most comfortable, that I had the best opportunity for avoiding resistance. I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. But it actually turned out that the way I was doing it wasn't actually aligned for the highest majority of people that I was going to be talking to. So TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're at. Think about this at the moment. Why do you do the things you do in the way that you do them? And for the vast majority of us, we have just inherited the way we do things based on either the people that trained us, the companies that you worked at, the industry standard, and all of these things. They might be the best way to do it, but it might actually not. And I'll give you a prime example. I've come from a 20-year background in sales. And a lot of the stuff that I was learning 20 plus years ago was passed down from people that were in it for 10 years before me. So some of this stuff's 30 years old. And buying habits, technology, systems, processes, the way we sell has all changed. So what might have worked last week, last year, 5 years, 10 years ago isn't necessarily going to be as effective as it is right now. And that ends up putting us in a position that we end up not being able to get the highest level of conversions that we can find to be possible because we're using almost an outdated methodology. Think of it like being a farmer. Imagine for the moment that you go back 500 years and you have a horse and a plow, you'd be an absolute legend. But imagine today having a horse and a plow, finding out that a tractor exists. That would make a massive difference to the amount and to the effectiveness that you could be a farmer. And so think of it like within sales and business. A lot of the time out there, we're at the stage that we're just doing things in a way which didn't work. And I did that myself. And the goal behind today is to try and uncover a few of those areas for you, things that we've done outside, things that we've done that didn't work, things that have worked, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. Now, if you want to share this out, please do. If you want to ask questions, you can. We'll come around to doing those at the end. So what's one of the biggest parts to be able to work out for improving our results? So the first thing is to work out where we actually are. And this is something which I overlooked massively for years. And the big part here is to work out not just the numbers for the sake of knowing your numbers, but actually to understand where you are in the pecking order. Anyone who's a football fan, if you support Chelsea and you know exactly how many points they've got and where they are in the table and how many goals they've been, and you know all these stats about your favorite football club, but you don't know the same stats in your business or as a salesperson, there's normally a reason why. The top performers, most of the time, know their stats. They know their conversion rates. They know what they do, and they know why they do certain things. So think of it like this. If you don't know what your numbers are, and you don't know what the potential is for within your industry, you don't know whether you're actually top of the tree or actually if you're hitting the lower ranks. And I'll give you an absolute prime example for this. We've done loads of stuff within the solar space, home improvements, and other areas. And a lot of these areas that are out there are fantastic business models. But most of the time, people just tell me the same thing. I just want more leads. Now, yes, more leads can be helpful. But actually, if you're not getting the most out of those leads, it causes a problem anyway. And I'll give you a real clear example. As a solar company, paid ads would come in. They would have a phone call, qualified, book into an appointment, go face-to-face and in. Now, let's say a business, let's call them A Corp, is currently turning over £30,000 a month in sales. Prime example. But they don't know their numbers. They just feel we're doing a good job. We just need more leads. But then if we look a little bit further down the rabbit hole and we look into things a little bit more, we can actually work out, well, do they need more leads? More leads is cool. But actually, there's a lot of frustration that people have around what they're doing. And here's the numbers. Lead comes in to appointment was 20% conversion. So for 2 out of every 10 leads that came in as a paid ad, they would only get 2 appointments. And then conversion from appointment all the way through to actually closed in-house was only about 30%. Now for a moment, imagine if you kept the same amount of leads, but you could convert 70% from lead into an appointment. And then in the close in-house, you could get from 30% to 60%. Suddenly, without any increase in leads, you're going to be at the stage, you're going to make a huge amount more money. And that's why the solar companies and home improvement companies that go from 30K a month to 150K a month without having to have a massive increase in ad spend. Now, that just comes down to as simple as knowing your numbers. Because if you don't know what your numbers are, you don't know what to compare them against. And that brings us into the second part. Now, let's say if you don't know your numbers and you don't know what the industry standard or the industry hires, you don't know what to aim for as a target. Go back to the same one with the solar. Those guys were unaware that a 70% conversion rate was even possible consistently. So they weren't trying to fix it because they didn't know the problem. They just thought, got heartburn, they just thought that what they were doing was right. So now we know our own numbers. Now we've worked out what our industry standard is. Now we can start going, okay, so here's where I am. Here's where the industry hires. What are the gaps here? And how do I then build this out to get to that next stage? Now, this can be done pretty simply, just by working out now within your client journey, where are the main areas I spend my time? Where does the deal fall out of bed? Where do people ghost me? Where do we close deals? Where do we lose deals? What are the objections we get? And you start organizing this in a way. And suddenly you can start actually getting a plan on, this is where we are now. This is where the high in my industry is. And here's going to be the steps that's going to take me through to get to that next stage. And here's the biggest problem that most businesses face. Most businesses, when they've realized they need to make a change, most time as salespeople realize they need to make a change, the first place they'll go is to a free training. And free trainings can help. But sometimes people are watching a free training from 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And that doesn't mean it's a problem in itself. But here's the thing I want you to remember. When everyone else is zigging, you likely want to zag. So imagine for the moment that an amazing trainer, let's say Alex Hormozi, prime example. Alex Hormozi, 4 years ago, comes out with blah, 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 blah. And he comes out with, what was some of the stuff he said? Would you be against X, Y, and Z? Now, although that's been used for decades in the industry, it wasn't being used a lot. So when Alex first came out talking about it, then it was really effective. But now everyone's doing it. It's not as effective as it was because you sound like everyone else. So if you sound like everyone else, it's not going to get to that next stage. So what we've got to do is look at it. When I want to learn, when I want to improve, when I want to get to that next stage, what is the reason I'm going to do it? And what am I going to do different? Because if you're doing something that was shown from 4 years ago, there likely is a huge amount of people that are contacting the same prospects, saying the same thing. And you are literally, if you're saying the same thing as everyone else, you're actually increasing resistance around what you're actually doing. So if you're selling over the phone, if you're going over Zoom, and you're coming out and you're talking to someone, and they are, whether you're here on TikTok, LinkedIn, Zoom, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're selling, think about where your prospects are. How many times they have a conversation, and what is the conversations they're having with other people? Here's a prime example. We'll all say that we're completely different to everyone else. But actually, a lot of the time, we are guessing that we are doing things differently to everyone else. We don't actually know. We don't know what other people are doing. So we guess, but when we say something really cool that we were really impressed with, was doing okay, but it's the best way to do it. And until you've done a little bit of research, it takes an hour, you can go and find out. You can go and find out what your clients are hearing, having the questions, having the conversation. You can go and see what your competitors are saying. And then you can start working out how to zig when everyone else is zagging. And it's one of the easiest ways to change what you're doing. So what could be some of those zigs when you need to zag? That could be your intro call. When you're getting on that first call, the way you start that first 2 minutes might be exactly the same as everyone else. If you're saying the same as everyone else, you're going to sound the same as everyone else. They're going to put you in a group the same as everyone else. So you've got to start learning to zig when everyone else is zagging. This is why we jump in industries. We're in 19 industries. And we might work with 10 companies in the solar space. But that means there's only 10 people doing things the way we do it. Everyone else likelyism, so it's really effective. And actually, if you're following stuff that everyone else is doing, all you're going to do is get linked in the same group as everyone else, which automatically just means it's going to be less impactful. Think of it like going to a comedy show. If everyone on stage that comes out tells the same jokes, it loses its impact. And a lot of the time, we're hunting around for new things to do when the very things we implement are actually old. We're actually doing things that a lot of people are already doing. They're just new to us. So TikTok, Insta, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Work out, why do I say the things that I say? Is it one, just because I want to do it? Just because someone else told me to? Just because I saw someone else do it? Or is there an actual reason why you say the things you say in a sales process that actually benefits the other person? Because for a lot of us out there, we actually just say things because we're the most comfortable with that way. And that doesn't mean that the person you're talking to is getting the best out of it from you. So we want to make sure we're moving forward in the right way. So think about it like that. Just remember one part. When everyone else is zigging, got a likely zag. And that'll change. So what are some of these areas we can think in about? Think about, for example, a lot of people talk now about how important, how vitally important building rapport is. Now, depends on what you sell, when you sell, how you sell, the methodology, the people, the urgency that they've got, how important actually rapport really is. If you just walked through the desert for 5 years and you came to a place that was selling any type of food, you would not need to have any rapport for that person. If you had absolute agony of toothache, you would just want to get that tooth out. You wouldn't need to build rapport with your dentist. The thing is, for a lot of us, we get hearing this stuff about build rapport and become everyone's mate and people buy from people they like, and they do, but it doesn't mean it's relevant for your industry and who you're selling to. And actually, when you're in a sales process, when you're having conversations with people, we want to be at the stage that we are having the conversations that actually get the person where they want help, not that they want a friend. And most of us, we get caught up in this idea that just building up rapport is the biggest part of sales. No, it's the biggest part for us because we like to make friends. But actually, a lot of people out there, they want a result and they need to see you as an expert to get them the result. I have a lot of friends that I absolutely adore. It doesn't mean I'm hiring them. It doesn't mean I'm trusting them to get me a result. I can have unconditional love for a family member. Wouldn't mean I trust them to do stuff. So we've got to start looking at how vital is rapport in what I do, and am I doing it more for the fact of myself over my actual prospects? Do my prospects want to really be my best friend? Or do my prospects actually want to just have complete faith that you can help them get the result they want in the fastest amount of time? And I genuinely think this. If my clients, if we went back to all of the clients that have ever worked with me, they want to get on with me. Of course they do. But if they had a choice of being my best friend and below average results, or not being my friend and getting massive results, they're going to choose the massive results. Now, yes, you can do both. But most of us, we're trying to just become everyone's friend, hoping that they buy. I want every client to love working with me. But the reason they hire me isn't because they really, really like me. They hire me because they see that I am the best option to get them the result that they want. So I hope this is making sense. So if you're here with TikTok, Insta, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, think about it right now. Are we spending too much time on rapport building rather than building a need and a requirement that helps that person work? If I was at sea right now and I fell off my boat or my boat sunk and I'm treading water, if I see anyone going past, I want to get a lift on that boat. I do not need their rapport. I don't need to like them. I need to get on the boat because I'm swimming and I'm going to drown. So we've got to be at the stage that we work out how important is rapport in the conversation. How much do people need to have rapport with me? Or am I doing it as a deflection because it stops me getting rejected? And a lot of us out there, if we're really, really honest, we're doing a lot more rapport building because it's fun and it makes us feel comfortable than it does help the other person. And in sales and in selling, every time we open our mouth and every time we do something, we are increasing resistance or reducing it, or we're increasing flow or we're reducing it. And for the vast majority of the time, just by becoming someone's mate does not mean you are moving towards a sale. Sometimes people will be like, I really like this person so much, I can't be honest with them about X, Y, and Z. So what do we need to do to fix it? There's a couple of areas. You can stick to doing what you're doing right now. This is only for people that actually want to move. They want to change. They want to adapt it. Okay, so 3 primary areas: mindset, skill set, habits. First and foremost, we've got to start thinking about what can we do differently? Not because what you're doing right now is wrong, but actually what would be an improvement. And I'll give you a prime example. Let's say that I was playing football, and every time I take a shot on goal, I'm 5% off target. I could have run through that whole pitch looking amazing. I could have got around every single defender. I could have done tricks and flips and spins and runs and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I could have done all of that stuff. But if when I get to the end, I take the shot on goal and I'm 5% off target, I've still missed. And a lot of us, we're doing all of this hard work. We're doing great things about lead generation. We're having good conversations. We're building up some interest. We're building up some need. We're building up some requirements. We're sending the right information. We're booking in the right call. But when it gets down to the end of the conversation, they're not closing. And if we're at the stage that they're not closing, there's something that's happening. Now go back to your data, go back to your information, go back to your overview, and look at what are the results compared to the standard in the industry. What are the lows and what are the highs of the industry, and where in that scale do you actually fit? And for a lot of us, we don't know. And if you don't know where you fit within that process, you can't work out how big a problem it is that you need to go off and change. Does this all make sense so far? Yeah? Good. Okay. So, 1, we've got to adapt. We've got to work out the numbers, work out the stats, work out where we are in the overview of the business, the industry, our company, and then work out how big a pain point it is we need to change. Now, we need to be able to work out where are the biggest sticking points within the sales process. For a lot of us out there, we are getting to the stage, we're having good conversations. When it gets around to the nitty gritty and we get an objection, we're using outdated methods, we're doing it in the wrong process, or we're not doing it at all. Now, just to be absolutely clear, when someone gives you an objection, your job is not to force your product down their throat and make them buy it. But it's about having a good conversation that goes 3 levels deeper, that actually brings that person to be open, honest, and transparent about where they are and what they feel and what they think, so we can move forward. And if you're not attempting to overcome hurdles and pain points and questions, you are never going to be one of the higher performers. And again, this isn't to get people to only buy your product. But most of us, if you're selling a high value product, if you're selling a product that costs a lot of money, if you're selling a product which is going to make a massive change in their life, if you're going to have a product which means they're going to have to make a change in their business, make a change in their habits, make a change in what they do, when they do, and how they do it, a lot of people will have resistance. Not in a, well, I hate this, but in a, I don't even know if it's going to work. I don't know if I can afford to do this. I don't know if I can afford for this to go wrong. I've tried stuff like this before and it hasn't worked. These are genuine feelings that people actually have. You have them too. So if there's people out there that are genuinely thinking these things, and the second it happens, you get out of that call, you're doing that because of you and how you feel, not because of them. And it's so important that we stop being selfish about how we feel about things and we start focusing on our prospects. Where are they right now? What are the hurdles, the misconceptions, and the fears that these people face? And how can I help that person overcome them so that they get the result that they want? The vast majority of us would make more money, close more deals, have happier clients, be able to work less if we simply got out of our own way. If we simply just had a process that we followed that was aligned with the goals that our prospects and our buyers have. But most of us were not. The vast majority of us, we're at the stage where we're following a process over and over and over again. We're following a script over and over and over again. We're not listening to the person in the right way. We're not listening to their hurdles. We're hoping that we can brush them under the carpet. We hope we can just ignore them and magically these people will buy. No, that's not right. Your prospects and your buyers, they should be able to lean on you as an expert in your field. They should be able to have conversations with you where they're open and honest and transparent about what they've got, what they worry about, what they don't know. And this leads us into another key problem that we all face. When you're going out and having a sales conversation, when you're in a sales process, when you're in a meeting, when you're at an event, when you're having a phone call, when you're on a Zoom call, you have to realize that the majority of the time, that person has beliefs, misconceptions, fears that you can't see. It doesn't mean that they can't buy. It doesn't mean that they won't buy. But for a change to happen, which is what sales is, what actually needs to happen for most people is they need to have new information, new belief, a transfer of perspective, so that they then have an alignment on a new path. And if people don't have a perspective shift, a belief shift, an understanding shift, a knowledge shift, where does the sale happen? It doesn't. You give them information and then they go, yeah, sounds good, I'll have a think about it. I saw something the other day, and some guy was a client's prospect said, sure, thanks very much. I'll get back to you when I'm ready to make a decision. When I'm ready to make a change. And he just got off the call and it said to him, no one wakes up ready to make a change. Something normally happens in their life that makes a change. Think back to the dentist. Suddenly your tooth breaks, you've got toothache. Now you're ready to make a change because the pain was too good. Some people out there, it's the fear of the long-term problems that you're going to face. But we don't want to wait for the pain to get so bad we have to make a decision. We want to be at the stage where we're helping people have perspective shifts based around misconception, fears, and beliefs so that they can move forward. Okay, so this is part one of a two-part training we're going to be doing. All around mindset, skill set, habits. We've done a bit on mindset. We talked a bit on skill set. The session that we're going to be doing next is going to be tomorrow. Again, it's another half an hour session. And in that half an hour session, we're going to be breaking down more around the practical and the actionable steps that we can actually put into place. If you want to come along to this session, it is, I believe, at midday tomorrow. And we're going to have it all set up where you can come along, just sit there and listen in. If you're liking this type of content and you want to actually sort of join in or find a bit more, go to becomeyourpotential.info. Becomeyourpotential.info. And we'll share a video on there, but you can go through. TikTok's just, this app's just closed down. Don't know why. There we go. And we're going to go down a rabbit hole a lot more around the skill set and habit side so that you guys can actually get the more practical tips that you need. All right. Okay. Right. That's it. Go and have a good day. I will see you guys on the live tomorrow. You guys are out.